This episode of the Sam Oldham podcast is sponsored by Turn, the only brand dedicated solely to men's gymnastics. Towards the end of my career, I started to work closely with the team at Turn to design custom uniforms that expressed who I was and where I came from, and they were always able to bring my ideas to life. For years, I wore uncomfortable gymnastics clothing until I started to wear Turn, whose uniforms are built with their attention to detail and quality in mind. Go check them out now at turn-gymnastics.com. and enjoy the episode. Giarnni, it's great to have you on, mate. Thank you for coming down. I know it's been a rainy morning, so I was glad when you got here safely. Just tell us a little bit to start with, mate. Tell us about your life right now and what you're up to. I know there's been some big things happening in the last few months.
Yeah, so obviously I'm out at the minute, injured, coming back from an injury. So this year I just decided, do you know what? Let's kind of focus on the rehab and getting back fit, but also focus on achieving some lifestyle goals. So, you know, I recently proposed to my girlfriend, which I should now say fiance. We've got a little baby girl on the way. You know, we bought a house this year. So it's just so many things that I'm focusing on life outside of gymnastics, because so often my goals are just literally purely for gymnastics.
Yeah.
Gymnastics is like tunnel vision focus, just what's best for that. And for once, I just wanted to achieve something outside of gymnastics and focus on that this year. So yeah, been quite busy really.
How's that shifted your perspective a little bit when it comes to your gymnastics and your career, Giarnni? They're like three massive life things, aren't they? Like buying a house, getting engaged and having a baby. You've like done it all in a really short space of time. Like, if you're going to do it properly. Yeah. How's that changed your perspective a little bit on gymnastics?
I think it's made me a lot more grateful for the career I've had.
Okay.
Not being part of that team at the moment, has also motivated me massively. And I think having proposed, announced a baby, things like that, it also motivates you in a way to think, okay, I'm not just doing this for me anymore. I'm doing this for now my family and family to be. So it's really opened my eyes, and it's kind of motivated me in a way and made me a little bit more hungry that I'm not just doing it for myself.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for so many more good reasons. So it's really exciting.
It's amazing to see, mate. It made me smile when I saw that on social media. Let's go back to the early beginnings. Just tell me a little bit, what do you remember about gymnastics when you first started? What are like the memories that really stick out? What do you really remember about it?
I think I remember most is like going into, my parents took me into like play sessions, and I remember just running wild. I remember seeing a foam pit, seeing trampolines, and wanting to run, jump, do everything a crazy kid would want to do. And then I remember one time I went in and they had the rings over the pit.
Okay.
And I climbed. My mum helped me up onto the platform. I climbed onto the rings, and normally like you just kind of hang there, let go, fall into the foam pit, and as a kid that would really excite you. And I decided one time just to pull myself over, and I pulled myself over and almost done like what you'd say as a tuck back or a dismount. And that's when a coach spotted me and said, "This kid's got some talent. He has." He'd clearly been watching me every time I come in and seeing how hyper and crazy I was, and was like, this kid needs to be in a group. And that was like my earliest memory of gymnastics, I'd say. It was just like that. And from there, I remember I did a little bit of rec, but rec was too it felt too easy. The things they were getting me to do, I picked up really quickly. And then from there, I literally 5 years old got put straight into a squad group.
And where was that, Giarnni? Like, what gym were you at that point?
So that was Waveney.
Okay.
So that's in Lowestoft, Suffolk. So that's where I was born and raised.
Who was the coach that spotted you?
I can't remember his name. I'd remember if someone told me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember being spotted, and then I got put into a group when I was 5 years old, and I was with a coach then called Matthew. I can't think of his last name, but 5 years old. And then at the age of 6, that's when Pete Everington come in, and 6 years old I did my first competition.
Wow.
Wow.
Does it seem like a lifetime away now? Like,
it does. I remember, 6 years old I did my first competition, which was floor and vault. I fell over on an arabesque on floor, started crying, and I was having this conversation the other day with someone, and I was like, it's crazy how 6 years old, my first competition was floor and vault. I fell over on floor, started crying. Yet years and years later, on floor, I become world champion. You know, from that point on, I like hated gymnastics. It scared me. I didn't want to do it because I'd fallen over, made a mistake, and then here I am today with what I've done. So yeah, it's just like, it's crazy when you look back.
What when you think about those times, Giarnni, because I think the first time I met you were about 9 years old. I just moved to Huntingdon, and I was hearing of this kid that used to come on a Sunday, and you were wild. You were that kid that you just described. But you always, throughout your career, even when I knew you and I was competing with you and I was on your team, you've always been so positive. And to me, you've always had such a positive outlook, even though you've been through some really difficult things in your career. Where do you think that positive outlook came from? Do you know, have you just been like that as a kid? Did it come from your parents? Where do you think that come from?
I think like my parents helped me massively with sport. I think they were both sporty themselves. You know, they were ballroom Latin dancers, so they were dance partners.
Right.
My mum went on to do judo for Great Britain. Wow. And my dad boxed. So they've come from a sporty background, and they kind of knew what it takes to be kind of, you know, at a high level or, you know, good at something.
Yeah.
And I suppose they've just helped me and pushed me from a young age. And also my grandparents, like my granddad, used to give me advice, help me a lot. So I think, yeah, from my family members, you know, having that support from them, people around me, it's just that made me into that. I suppose have that positive outlook. And there was some times where I doubted myself, and, you know, I wasn't sure. And sometimes Pete would have to reassure, you know, you're doing well, you're doing fine, just keep going, things like that. You know, when you're young, I remember it took me 5 years to get a long swing on P-bars. And I was just like, I don't know why. I could do it with him just literally standing there touching my hand. As soon as he moved away, I was like, I can't do it. And that was just a bit of a mental thing for me. And like times like that, that's where I did obviously probably get a little bit down. Yeah. But other than that, you know, I think it comes from my parents, people around me that have just pushed me, always wanted the best for me, and have helped me as well in times where I felt probably low and down. So that period where you still were a bit unsure, you were struggling with your lungs. I was the same, by the way. Sergey used to have to hold my hand. Yeah. I just couldn't hold on. As soon as he walked away, I just slip off. I didn't know what it was. It was like some psychological thing. Yeah. But after that, you start to develop this incredibly successful junior career. At what age did you become aware of just how good you were? Because as a young gymnast, you can hear the noise and the conversations people are having about you, and you can tell people are treating you slightly differently. Yeah. I think for me, you know, I always, like you said, I'd go to Huntingdon on weekends, and I'd train alongside like yourself. I'd see Lewis, I'd see Dan, Cameron McKenzie, and like I'd push Pete and obviously me, you know, would push myself to be doing skills that at this point juniors weren't really doing. Yeah. I remember one time I was having flying back competitions with Cameron McKenzie, and I was like so young. Yeah. But I think really when I started to kind of believe it was 2014. Right. You know, coming up to Junior European Championships, I was young. I really wanted to make that team, and we did like the 4-way competitions then up until that point. And in the end of 2013, I just scored like my first 80, and I was like over the moon. And I think really from that point on, I was like, this is possible. You know, I'm starting to see the results of my hard work, and the training's coming together. I started performing well, and I think going into 2014, that's when I realised like this is where I could really change my life. So probably then.
And then you go on 2014, make Junior Europeans, win multiple gold medals. 2 years later, 2016, same again. In between that, you've got the Youth Olympic Games. I had a little look this morning on Wikipedia. You won 5 medals at the Youth Olympic Games. So you won 3 gold, 2 bronze, is that right?
Yeah.
Which is an incredible achievement. So you are one of the most successful British junior athletes of all time in gymnastics. You were probably the last of almost a golden generation. What was that? Just tell people what that was like at that time, that 10-year period, and also the pressure every time you went out to compete as a junior. You were basically expected to win, right?
Yeah, and I think, you know, looking up to obviously yourselves and the people that had obviously done it previously, it was just known to us that it was a must. You know, we can't be the ones that break the trend, the winning trend, and we just dedicated everything to doing that. And yeah, I think it all kind of came from you guys, really. So you know, you inspired us, and I think back then being around, it was a lot more junior senior back then. There was a lot more, you know, there was times where getting ready for Euros and stuff like that, we'd be doing our prep camps with, you know, the senior team, like, you know, yourselves and that. And it was just, we was like, we have to do it. There was no option. It was like, for us, it was like, we are doing this. We must do this.
Do you think that was a real advantage, having juniors and seniors train together a lot more?
Yeah, definitely.
Is that? I think maybe I spoke with Joe about this.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen as much now. Is that right?
No, yeah. So now they're very, very much separated.
Okay.
But for me, you know, as a junior, you look up to the seniors.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, I want to be like this guy. Oh, look what this guy's doing. Yeah. And I always looked up to Dan Keatons. He was one of my favourite gymnasts. I used to watch the stuff he was doing, the cool tricks and skills and things. I was like, I want to do that. I want to do this, you know. And it does. I think it inspires you, it motivates you, and it gives you a little bit of belief that actually you could do that. You know, that could be you in a few years. But obviously now it's very much kind of junior squads, senior squads. Which, it's just different because it's not what we had. Yeah. We did have a lot more time with the senior squad. So, and for me personally, that helped.
Yeah. So that you've just talked to me a little bit about that Youth Olympic Games, because it's an amazing competition. It only happens once every 4 years. There's only one gymnast that represent men or women, so it's so hard to be in the right place at the right time and get that spot. You go there and you beat Nikita Nagorny, who's gone on to have this unbelievable career. So it's that type of thing, you know, when I sit down and I'm doing a bit of research and I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh. And you were saying that this year, obviously, you've had some time to reflect on your career already, like some incredible achievements. What do you remember about that Youth Olympic Games?
Yeah, I think, you know, originally I wasn't actually supposed to go. It was supposed to be Bryn.
Okay.
But I think at the time Bryn had hurt his back or he was out with an injury. So they said basically I was kind of the next one that was like ready, my fitness and my training and stuff. And I remember just training. Me and Pete I remember Pete saying to me, this is going to be the biggest competition in your life, your career. And from that point on, we come up with a plan. And we stuck to that plan, and it was like just hitting the routines. Certain days routines, certain days we do corrections and parts. And the build up to that was like, it was quite tough, but it was definitely needed. And I remember like Eddie said to me, G, just go out there. There's no pressure. Enjoy it, and just soak up all the experience, and make memories, have fun. And I remember being like really scared because back then I always like. I didn't really like traveling alone because I was like, I'm going to China and it's just me. There's no other athletes. Like, I'm going to have to meet new people, make friends. Like, it was scary. And I remember getting there and it was this big multi-sport event. It was me and Ellie. And I was like, right, well, they've told me to have fun, so I'm just going to try and have fun. And we did qualifications and I ended up qualifying in first. And all I wanted to do, I remember like I was on the bus, I had my headphones on, I was like, I just want to make a floor and vault final. Because back, you know, as a junior, those were my two kind of best pieces. And I was literally just thinking, I just want to make a floor and vault final, please. I'd do anything just to make that. And when I qualified first all round, I'm like, what's happened here? And then we get like a phone call later that night, like, you know, off Eddie. I think I spoke to Baz as well, and they were like, all right, that's it now, G, you got to go out and win it. And I was like...
so they've gone from, you've got to have some fun to right now, you got to win.
Yeah, you've proved to everyone you can win it, so you got to go out and win it now. And I was like, huh? Like, and then I remember, so obviously finals was then in 2 days. My teammate had come back, he was triathlon. He just won a gold medal.
Right.
And I was just looking at his medal thinking, wow, that is incredible. Like, I want that. Like, I really wanted it. And I was like, can I just hold it and look at it? And I was like, this is so cool. And I was like, in my head, I was thinking to myself, I can do that. Like, I've qualified in first, I can do it. So then obviously all-round final comes and I'm just like, whatever happens, you know, I'm with Pete, we're having a good time. let's just enjoy this competition, do the routines as I've been practicing, and whatever results happen, that will be it. So yeah, the comp comes and I end up smashing it. I don't think throughout that competition I hit every single routine. So
no falls in any?
No falls. So I did 6 out of 6 in qualifications, 6 out of 6 in all round. Then I hit my floor, hit my vault, hit P-bars and high bar. I'm pretty sure those are medals, or something like that. So it was like 18 routines, I don't know, something like that. Not making a mistake on one single routine, which I think just goes to show like how good the build-up was. And I think like any competition, as you start to, get on, the days go on, you're in more competitions, you become used to, like, let's say day one qualifications, the nerves are at probably the max. Then all round, you're still nervous, but you've already done a competition, so you know what it's like, you know what the arena's like. And then come, apparatus finals day, I was just like, it felt like my second home. So I just really built that confidence from those days. And I think as well, like, knowing that you've just won a gold medal, you can go into finals a bit more relaxed. Yeah, you kind of
know, whatever happens now, at least I've got a gold medal. Yeah. So you've kind of got nothing to lose at that point.
And it was just an incredible experience. For me, it's my first, like, we seen it as the biggest competition in my career at that point. And yeah, we trained like it was the biggest competition, and we obviously got the results that we wanted. So yeah, it's a really, really good experience. And
did that kind of light the Olympic fire in you?
Yeah, I think so. Like, that was just after Europeans in 2014, and I got gold. Obviously, we got the team gold. I got the gold on floor and silver on vault, I think I got. So it was like just off the back of that. But I hurt my ankle at that Europeans.
Right.
So I was dealing with an injury that I was trying to still like work with. And then yeah, from that competition, like that year, having the European success, then having the Youth Olympic success all in 1 year, I was like, wow. People started looking at me differently as well.
I can remember there being a real shift.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you're like getting interviewed for BBC, and you're in the newspaper and you're doing things, and you're the next kid, because you were the next kid that's coming along. There's always, you got Dan Keating's, Niall, and then you were kind of the next one to come along as like the superstar. Yeah,
and I remember getting back, and I went to like Daily Mirror Pride of Sports Awards, and I won the Daily Mirror Pride of Sports. Like, must have been like a youth one or something, and it was like Lewis Smith presented me the award. And I was in a room full of top athletes. I met Jermaine Defoe, Kenny Dalglish, swimmers, divers, all these people that I'd look at and think, wow, that's that person, that person. And then they were doing the award, and again, it was out of me in the triathlon that won the gold medal as well.
Right, okay.
So we knew each other, we was good friends. And then I won it. Lewis, obviously called me up on stage, and I was just so nervous. And they were like, he was like, speech, do a little speech. So as he would, I probably didn't have to, but I don't know. So I stood there in this microphone, and I was looking out, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here? And I remember just speaking really quickly. Like, I'd just like to say thank you to my mum, dad, my coach, my manager, everyone that's been like just really rushing and panicking, because
just quickly trying to work out, what do people say on TV when they get awards?
And yeah, I'll never forget that night, because Jermaine Defoe stopped and spoke to me for about 30 minutes.
Really? Wow.
And he gave me some good advice about just sports, career, and it was nice to see someone with his sort of, at that time he was playing for Tottenham, and it was like his sort of level, someone that, like a footballer like that, would have the time to stop and talk and give you advice. And that was really cool. But yeah, I'd kind of gone from, like you say, a junior that hadn't really done much to all of a sudden I'm now
the man.
I've achieved this. I'm now on an awards evening with people that are absolutely superstars and legends. Yeah. And I'm like, what's going on?
And that's quite difficult to handle, right, when you're a kid as well? Because you're at this point, how old are you at this point?
I was I 15, 16.
So 15
16,
or 16, and all of a sudden people are
Yeah.
treating you slightly differently, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's because you're really good at this one thing, and that can be quite challenging, can't it, when you're a teenager?
Yeah, it was just like, again, it felt like now I had a bit of pressure on me in a way. It was like, right, I've achieved this, but I felt as if people were then going to expect results.
Right, okay.
We had EOF the next year, we had things like that, and it was like, right, well, people are not, like when I went to EOF in 2015, all the junior coaches, everyone were just watching what I was doing in the gym.
And recording what you're doing. And
Yeah. And I felt so...
like you've got to live up to that.
Yeah, I felt as if, like, you know, I was trying to be someone... I was trying to be that person that I was last year.
Yeah.
I was trying to be that person I was in 2014. And that was just kind of hard. And I was also at that stage where I was then trying to make upgrades in my routines.
Yeah.
And... yeah, that EOF wasn't the best for me. I made mistakes. It was just like, it's almost like I'd gone from up here back down to here again.
Yeah, it's almost, I can imagine as well, when you're at that age and you've had an incredibly successful year, 2014, then 2015, you're wanting to put upgrades in, which is going to be risky, right?
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of pressure on your shoulders to still get the results. So you're torn between, right, I need to upgrade, but they're expecting me to win these medals now. And it can almost stifle your improvement a little bit, can't it? It can stop you from taking those risks if you've not got the right people around you. But then you go on in 2016, you become junior European all-around champion in 2016. You have an incredible amount of success again. Tell me a little bit about what conversations were taking place after that Junior Europeans between that Rio Olympic Games? Because I can remember you going from Junior European all-around champion to, right, I'm in the mix, I'm pushing now for the Olympic Games. Can you just tell me about that time a little bit?
Yeah, so it was actually beforehand, that year, because I was always, you know, I think throughout the years, as a junior, I was making like Masters finals, things like that on floor and vault. And I'd always be competing. I'd love it because I was able to compete at senior floor routine, and I was able to do, you know, at that time I was doing straight Thomas rollout, things like that, which we wasn't allowed to do as a junior.
Yeah.
And I remember at the beginning of the year I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna do Europeans and I'm just gonna push. Why not? I felt as if everyone has a chance, so why not? Like, I just want to give it a go. And then before the British, I remember Eddie sitting down with me. It's like, G, you're not going to go, but just before you start, you're not going to go to the Olympics, so let's just clear that one up now. It's not your time. Just, you know, just so we get that clear before the year starts. And I was thinking, okay. And it was kind of hard because, like, there was no beating around the bush. It was just straight to the point.
Yeah.
And that was obviously before British champs in 2016.
Yeah.
I then go out and compete handspring 2.5 and a triple twist on vault that year. And then I go make floor final as well. So then the conversations were like, after that, I then had a chat with him and he said, me and Andre have been talking and, you know, with what you're doing, we think, you know, especially your floor vault and your P-bar works well up there, we think you got potential. But only if you go to the Europeans, you must win team gold. You must win the all-round, win floor, win vault, and I want you to medal on P-bars.
Right.
And those were the things, and because I'll never forget it. So I go to the, you know, and I've got this in my head now, we're thinking, right, me and Peter are like, right, this is what I've got to do to be considered to go to the Olympic Games. And I was like, right, you know, I'm going to go out there and give it my all. And, you know, I'm not going to shy down from this challenge. I believed in myself, Pete believed in me, and I had a great support team around me, and we come up with, again, a good plan. We then go out, we become European champions, so I get the gold, so I'm like, okay, that's one ticked off. Then I go out there, become junior European champion, second one ticked off, win floor, I got a silver on vault, and then I got a silver on P-bars, and then that's when they then said, right, you know, you've done more than enough. We did. Basically, I think they set me a challenge that was almost impossible to complete, but I pretty much did exactly what they said. And then, I remember being called into Eddie's office and I had to sign some forms, like some late, like, forms and stuff, which didn't mean that I was obviously in the team. It was just like to be considered. Everyone that was like in the running for it you have to sign.
You have to sign at the start of the year, don't you? You have to say that I want to be in contention for the Olympic, and then you have to sign. Your coach has to sign in case they travel out for the Olympic Games.
Yeah. So as soon as we got back, I got called straight into his office. We signed the forms and stuff, and then from that point, again, it then become a big transition because some of the pieces, like vault, I was doing what I'd say was probably senior vaults at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a big floor. I was doing a big P-bars at that time, but then I needed a bit more than that. So that's why I was then trying to add a Coleman in on bar.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to do a bit more on pommels, just so, as you know, like making a team, the more you can give, the better, really.
Yeah.
And that's how it all started. So it started before.
Right, okay.
Beforehand. I got sent there really with a task that was probably set because they probably didn't think it was going to happen.
That's really interesting, mate, yeah, because a lot of the time in gymnastics, you will have found this in your career, you get told things by certain people in positions of power that sometimes you think, is that really going to happen? Or are you just trying to motivate me? Are you just trying to push me? Is it just because you're in that place and you're the person that can say that? And sometimes you achieve these goals that get set, but then it doesn't materialize what they say was going to happen. So, it's really interesting hearing that those conversations started at the beginning of the year with that this isn't going to happen. Then that quickly turned into actually this is somebody that could really like put some big scores for the team at an Olympic Games. And that turnaround from Europeans was fast. That must have been like May time? Yeah, April, May.
It was a quick
and then trials in a couple of months.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like I look back and think, did he have that conversation with me before the British Champs because he wanted me to think, do you know what? No, I'm going to prove you wrong. Or was it actually at that time that I wasn't even going to be considered? I don't know. But I do know that conversation that he had with me was, do you know what? No, I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to have a go. Because I was hesitant at that time whether to try the handspring 2.5 and the triple twist at the British. Because before that, I was doing a double twist in Yuchenko and a 2.5 Kaz. And this was the first time I was like, I'm going to push this year to do these big vaults. It was scary. Every time I was at the end of the vault run, it scared the life out of me. And I was actually not going to compete them after he told me that. And I remember having a call with my granddad back then. And I just said, I need some advice. What would you do? And he told me to go out there and do those vaults and show them what I'm capable of. And then that's why I did a handspring 2.5 and a triple twist and landed both on my feet. And from that point on, I was like, no, I don't want to let someone else control what I do and don't, what I can and can't do. Yeah. I think anyone has the ability to be able to do anything they want to achieve or what they want to put their mind to. So why couldn't I do this? And then from there, obviously they seen that I was doing those vaults. And back then they were both valued at
17.
Something
17,
crazy, I was scoring 15 on both vaults.
Well, there's nobody else that I can think of that was doing two vaults to 7 vaults is what it was at the time. Yeah. There was people doing a 7 and a 6-6, but not 2 7s, I don't think so.
It was just massive. And then obviously after that, that's when the conversations happened. And again, I went out to Junior Europeans and
did what you were asked to do.
Yeah.
And then you come back, it's a quick turnaround. All of a sudden, you've signed those forms, you're in the senior team. Just tell me a little bit about the injury. Tell me how it happened. I remember seeing it. So I was on floor warming up for a floor routine. And I kind of walked around the corner and like looked over in the corner of my peripheral and saw you fly off and basically tangle around the wires, land on the wood. Just tell me about that injury, and I guess the impact that had really on your trajectory. You've gone from having this almost perfect career to being almost, it's like a punch in the face and everything stopped still.
Yeah, it was. Like I was saying a minute ago, that I was competing as a junior, so I had to jump up. I had to step up my game. I've gone from 8 skills to 10 skills. I need to find 2 more skills on each apparatus. Floor and P-bars, I had it. Vault was fine, but again, I needed more on high bar. It was letting me down. So I was already doing, Kovac's at this time, and my Kovac is one of those ones where I was on the bar every time, and I was learning a Coleman, but for me, I couldn't understand the Coleman. A Kovac, I don't know how, because really they say like Coleman, you can see it the whole way around, but I couldn't. I was one that always put my head down. And I remember just coming close. There were some days I'd catch it. There were some days I'd be missing. And this one day in particular, I was just like kind of fingertipping the bar every time, just kind of scraping it. And I was like, right. And as you would, like with your team around you, everyone's like, come on, G, let's catch this one. This is the one. So I was like, right, I'm going for it. This is the one. I'm going to grab the bar no matter what. And obviously, I've come round. I've gone to grab the bar. My left hand was on, I believe. I think it was my left hand, but it was only I was only on fingertips, and this hand was out to the side. And I still tried to hold on because I'd committed in my mind that I was grabbing grabbing the bar. And obviously, you can imagine full body weight at the bottom of the bar on your fingertips. You can't hold on. I just remember slipping, hitting the ground so quickly, and my leg bending, like it went like back and side at the same time. And instantly, I was just like, I couldn't breathe. And I remember laying on the floor, kicking my leg, just like, my leg. And obviously people around me were like, what's going on? I remember I speak to Dom sometimes about it, and I remember him saying to me, like, he thought I was just messing about on the floor. And it wasn't until I actually stayed down, I was like, I've dislocated my knee, because that's what it felt like. Because I'd snapped my PCL, my shin bone was then sagging down to the floor. But for me, I'd never experienced anything like that. So my leg just felt out of place. So I just assumed that I dislocated my knee or something. And yeah, it just, in that moment, it felt like a lifetime. Like it just, everything was going through my mind. My legs were my gift. I remember I don't know which coach it was, but there was a coach who said to me, G, your legs are your gift. They are your tools. Please don't ever hurt them, because, they'll get you a long way. I can't remember who said it to me, but someone said that to me. And I just remember in that moment thinking about that, the one thing that I've tried never to hurt, I then go and, I'm currently in a lot of pain. And I think, like in that moment, when something's bad.
When you're watching as well, don't you? Like,
yeah.
As another athlete, if you see an injury, you kind of go, yeah, that one's bad.
Yeah.
You can tell whether when it's a serious one, everyone's kind of looking at each other going, shaking their head a little bit.
And I just remember then getting stretchered away. They brought me over some oxygen because I think there was so many emotions going through me at the time. It was like a lot of pain, but then maybe shock kicked in, because I think after about a couple minutes, 5 minutes, I don't know how long I was laying there for, it just kind of went away. And I was like, I'm not sure if I'm feeling anything anymore. Like, it just gone. And then they give me the oxygen mask, they take me over, they give me gas and air. And I'll never forget, they took me, can you remember the physio bed used to be around the back where the water fountain is?
Yep.
So I was on that bed having gas and air. I was having the time of my life. I was laughing, and, you got my coach Pete, he's there crying. Other coaches around there like, oh my, like, what's happening? What's going on? The doctor's just like moving my leg around like a banana. But at this time I couldn't feel it because I was just on gas and air, and I was like that. And then they put me in a leg brace, sent me off for a scan. And I remember getting a phone call saying it's not good news. And you boys, there was like loads of, I think the rest of the team went to the shop and bought me like loads and loads of sweets. And I remember sitting in like Frank's room, because he had the triple room. And I was just sat in Frank's room, legging like a straight brace, and everyone brought me like loads and loads of sweets, chocolates, all that stuff, to try and make me feel better. But yeah, I think that's a moment I'll never forget. But also that's a moment that's probably made me the person I am, the athlete I am as well. So I think looking back, it probably stopped. It seemed as if I was going like this, from junior. I was kind of going upwards, and it did cause me a lot of struggle, a lot of setbacks. And from that point on, I've just had nothing but injuries. Yeah. I got back from my knee. I then snapped my ankle. I did the talus and I did the deltoid ligament.
Right. Is that inside or outside, Giarnni? Those ligaments?
Inside.
Okay.
Inside.
And the same leg?
Other leg.
Other leg.
So I got back to my first competition, and I remember I was like, right, I want to tackle vault first. We've literally we got to Switzerland. It was like the Swiss Cup. It was one of those ones where it was
12,
like
is this how? What's the time frame, Giarnni? So you come back from, just for everybody listening, just tell them exactly what it is that you did to your knee, and then just the time frame between the second injury.
So in my knee, it was actually quite a lot. So I fully snapped the PCL.
Okay.
The MCL did a grade 2+. So it wasn't quite fully gone, but it was near enough. I did a grade 2 on the hamstring, and where my leg had hyperextended that much, my femur and my shin bone had kind of crushed together, and it fractured the top of my shin bone.
Okay.
Destroyed all the cartilage in my knee. So it was a full-on reconstruction. They didn't do surgery for 3 months, so I had to do 3 months in a leg brace.
Right.
Then have the surgery, because the surgeon said to me, if I operate now, I'm going to have to smash the crap out of your knee. Literally his words. So we want to let the swelling kind of die down, and hopefully that will make the operation a lot smoother, a lot cleaner,
right.
And also help with recovery.
And is that surgeon, is the conversation that's taking place, you're going to get back to full fitness, or is it, I'm not really sure what's going to happen here?
Well, the surgeon that I went to, he does a lot of the footballers. I think now he only actually does footballers.
Okay.
So,
do you remember his name?
Yeah, Mr. Andy Williams.
Okay, different one to mine.
Yeah. Really, really good guy. I remember just like meeting him. He's walking up, he's got this suit on, he puts his arm out to shake my hand, he's got this big like Rolex on. I'm like, wow, he's top dog, he is. And then, so basically he said to me, realistically 12 months. He told me 12 months to get back, but he said it will always, for me, I always tell people 2 years, because from my experience it takes people 12 months to get back, but it takes them 2 years, because the second year is more mentally. And it was really, he was spot on.
Yeah.
Because at first I was like, I'm sure I'll be fine mentally, like, I'm fairly strong, I can do this. I'd gotten back within 12 months, but that second 12 months, I was struggling and battling so bad mentally, thinking that everything, every jump, every run, every landing, I just thought my leg's going to hyperextend. My leg's just going to go. And that is what then caused, so the surgery was end of 2016. Mm-hmm. Get back in 2017. So we're talking November 2017, I go to Switzerland for a competition. So it was literally 12 months almost to my first competition from surgery. I get out there and I was like, right, I want to tackle vault first. I've come off a plane, because it was one of those where you get off a plane, you check in and go straight to podium training. So I was like, right, before I get too tired in the session, I want to get my vault done first. So I was like, I was only doing 2.5 at this point, because I just wasn't ready for triple. Wasn't confident enough. And I remember warming up, hitting the vault, twisting, and in the air I was thinking, I just had a freak moment that I was going to land on a straight leg. I don't know what it was. I just had this like flashback in the air. And at this time I was struggling with flashbacks massively. So I was like, I'll just bend this leg and take all my weight on this leg. So as I've landed, my ankle's just gone like in and out. And I remember laying there and I was just like saying like every swear word under my breath. And Pete was like, it's all right, just calm down. You've just rolled your ankle, that's fine. I was like, no, Pete, this is bad. Like, this is really bad. He's like, right, just calm down. Take some breaths, just calm. I was like, just stop talking. I was like, let me just try and stand up. Like, like you want to test it out. Yeah. I tried to stand up. I was like, no, I can't. He's like, just sit down.
Yeah.
And we ended up having a scan. Yeah, it turned out I did a grade 2 on the deltoid, which is the inside, and I had fractured the talus bone. And they called it like a skydiver's break, because it's normally like what a skydiver does when they come like crash landing on the ground. So yeah, that was literally 12 months. So I hadn't even been back to I literally got to my first competition, and I've injured myself again. And then I was on crutches, and it was so the pain was so bad.
No surgery this time.
No surgery. Yeah. They said that they said that it could heal by itself because the deltoid hadn't fully ruptured. They said to leave it, and obviously the bone would heal as a bone would. But I remember the ligaments taking so long, and I was in the boot, and I was supposed to come out of the boot on Christmas Day. And it comes to Christmas Day, and they're like, "No, we need you to stay in the boot for like another month." And I was like, "Another month? You've told me I've been wearing this boot now from November to Christmas Day. You're telling me I can come out on Christmas Day, and now I've got to wear it for another month." And I think at first you don't mind wearing a boot. You're like, okay, it's protecting me. But after a while, you know, trying to get around, trying to do things in a boot is just like, you just get fed up. And yeah, I think it's so true what he said. You know, the first year is about recovery, the second year is mentally, and that second year is where it really got me mentally. And it was like, I didn't believe it at the time until I experienced it. And then from there, it was just, again, that led me, that was another year out. And you're thinking at this time, everyone's just kind of just going like this, getting one step ahead. And that was hard to deal with, because you're thinking at this point, people would probably struggle to come back. People find it hard enough to come back from one major injury, and then to have kind of two back to back. It was like, oh, this is killing me.
And after that, Giarnni, like, even at that time, was there a difference in, like, your ability to do floor and vault in your legs? Like, were you coming back thinking, this isn't the same? Like, did you feel that at that point?
Yeah, I think I felt as if I was quite gifted as a kid on floor and vault. I could run down and do tumbles without even warming up. And maybe that was me just being a kind of, you know, silly little young kid that didn't want to warm up. But I could, for example, run down, do double straight first go. I didn't have to do the jumps, the round offs, the flicks, the high straight back. I could just run down and do it first go. And all of a sudden, I'm having to get my ankle warmed up. I'm having to get my knee ready. How does it feel? I'm having to do jumps. I'm having to really take my time to warm up. So it was so different for me. I'd gone from a gymnast that could run down and just tumble without even thinking about warming up. Obviously, you know, I do my warm-up, like stretch and stuff, but as in go into that apparatus, I could just run down and do it. I could run down and vault and do a triple twist. I remember James, a couple of times I'd done it to James, he used to get annoyed. I'd just literally go to vault, wouldn't even warm up, run down, triple twist, land. And he'd be like, I hate you. But that all changed.
Yeah.
That all changes. Like, for me, I wasn't that athlete, that kid anymore. This was my new body now. I was never gonna be that person again. And it was finding that new me and what that looked like. And that was quite hard, because training changed. The amount I could do, the amount I can tolerate, as in like sessions, tumble sessions, couldn't be as long, or I had to plan out whether today was a good day to do it because of my knee, or whether it was a bad day. And I think that was quite hard, because when you get to a competition, you have to do it no matter how you feel. But in training, it then become a like, today's routines, but do I think I can do a double, or do I think I just need to do a high tuck back? But then you feel as if you're not training properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was hard, and it affected me massively. It affected training. It changed the way I had to train. And even to this day, I still have a bad ankle.
Right. So it still
ankle.
affects you now.
Yeah.
In what way does your ankle affect, like, your life now and your training, I guess?
So now I don't get any more, since the ankle injury, I don't get any more range than 7 on knee to wall.
You're a 7 on a knee to wall, and a 7 on a knee to wall, and you're a world champion on floor. That blows my mind.
And you won't believe this, but at Worlds, the morning of, so Europeans and Worlds, I had 0.
Last year?
Yeah.
How do you even take off backwards doing that? Like,
so this is where the problems come, because I've then started to turn my ankle out to get a bit more range.
To get more range.
But then I started getting bone stress on the outside of my ankle. But yeah, European champs last year, I was waking up And I was walking down to breakfast, like one foot was flat, one foot was like half on my tiptoes because I just had no range.
Wow.
And I remember sat on the podium before Europeans. I'd made European floor final. And we got to go on the podium just before the competition started. And I remember sat there and I was like, I'm going to have to pull out. And I was almost in tears because I really didn't want to pull out. And I was like, I can't jump. And the coaches for me were like, gee, like you don't need to do this. But I think that little, I don't know what it is, that fire inside of me is like, no, I'm in a European floor final. Of course I want to go do it.
Are you, when you're making yourself compete in these big major championships, 2022, you're doing 3, are you in pain? Is it pain in your ankle? How are you getting through that? What are you doing to cope with that? Because there were times when I was coming back from my ankle injury, which was similar to yours. I was in agony, man. There was I can remember doing a competition, my first competition back. I was having a blinder of competition. I was on for a 90. We got to floor. Yeah. My ankle went, pulled scar tissue away from where the surgery was. I couldn't drive for like a week. I couldn't walk.
Yeah. No, I was I take like anti-inflammatories to try and help, but.
And is that something like all the time? You're doing that all the time? Do you know what I mean? Just for you, in order for you to train and do floor and vault at that high level, is that just part and parcel of what you have to do?
Yeah, well, I always try and avoid it as long as I can. But when it gets to, I think last year is different because we had 3 major championships very close to each other. So normally if I was in pain, I'd take like anti-inflammatory. I'd always start with ibuprofen, and then if it got really bad, I'd have to take like naproxen.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, to get through that, yeah.
And do you ever, like, you get to the end of the year, like last year, you've done that 3 times, 3 build-ups, 3 stress physically and mentally. Do you ever worry about what that's going to mean for the rest? Do you know what I mean? You've just found out this year that you're going to be a dad, and you're thinking about, because when I got towards the end of my career, I was thinking, hold on a minute, I want to throw a ball. Yeah. And I want to, if I have kids, I want to be able to lift them up on my shoulders, because I had a lot of issues with my shoulder. My ankle, I was thinking I might never be able to run or play football again. Like, have you started to think about that a little bit more?
Yeah, I think...
Because that's really shocked me that your knee to wall's a 0 and you became a world champion last year. Yeah. And did you get a medal on floor as well last year?
I fell on my second to last tumble. Right. But
still, you're competing in a floor final. This is like the highest level you can compete at.
Yeah.
And you're waking up on that day with literally no range in your ankle. For people like listening, that means that when you take off backwards, your ankle isn't bending past the point of 90 degrees. So when you're doing gymnastics, that's a bit of a problem, isn't it?
Yeah. So not only that, I had because of this ankle, I think in a way I was compensating on the left, because I had a bad Achilles on the left side.
So you're taking more weight on that back knee side.
Yeah. So I then had a scan on the left side out at the Europeans on my Achilles, just to like make sure I was safe. Like I said to the doctor, I just want to make sure before I go into this, I want to make sure that obviously my Achilles are safe. Mm-hmm. Last thing I want to do is go to a floor final when I've got a bad ankle and end up snapping my Achilles or something. So yeah, the Achilles were just, they're all fine, come back all fine. But again, I think it was just where I was, I suppose, compensating a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't have it in this ankle. And that's why you look back to Europeans, you look back to World Championships, I've just got this heavy taping around my ankle. It's literally just strapped up. One bit comes all the way up across my calf.
I think that's just so important for people like that listen to know. Like, you think when an athlete's competing at the highest level and they go out and they win a world championship gold medal, become a world champion, that they're as fit as they can be.
Yeah.
When the reality is, you're waking up that morning thinking, is my ankle even going to hold up today? Like, I'm strapped up, taped up, I'm on anti-inflams just to get through the day. And I think that would be quite surprising for people to listen to, because they watch you on the TV and they see this shiny bit at the end and the big smiles and the gold medal and the amazing routine. But the reality is, what goes into that is actually a lot of sacrifice and a lot of risk in many ways.
Yeah. And that year as well, what I didn't really tell was the beginning of the year before the English champs. It was 1 week before the English champs, I actually got a hernia in my foot. So, which is really like, people, when I told the physios, they were like, no ways, like, you not got a hernia in your foot. And I was like, no. And I sent the picture, you could see the big lump in my foot.
Right.
Took me for a scan. Yeah, I had a herniation. So then I was dealing with that throughout the whole year. I couldn't jump. I couldn't hit a springboard. I couldn't jump on the floor because every time I was hitting and making contact with the floor, it was then putting pressure on the hernia. And again, that was just another thing. Yeah. And then I went to a World Cup not long before Commonwealth Games. The training session before I went out there, I did a straddle front. I went wonky in the air, and I don't know what I tried to do. I tried to like swerve myself back into the bars. Okay. And I swung, and as I swung through, I just booted the upright, and my foot was like black and blue. Couldn't walk. So like all these things that happened last year, I don't even know how I got there. Yeah. It's just like I think you just find a way. You're like, right, this ain't that bad. And I tried to keep it on the down low. I was like, I don't want to tell anyone because I don't want to be kicked off the Commonwealth team, because not for the sake of like we're kicking you off because of this. It's like if you're injured and you've hurt yourself to a kind of bad sort of level, then obviously the doctor's going to say no, you can't compete because it's not safe. So I was like, right, this ain't that bad. It's fine. It's just a little bruise. I had a scan when I was out in Bulgaria, and it was like the dodgiest scan ever, if I'm honest. And I just remember saying, the guy saying to me, no breaks, no fracture. So I was like, okay, that must be good. Yeah. But my foot was still like a balloon. It's black and blue. So all of these things I was dealing with throughout Commonwealth Games, Europeans, and then Worlds. And that's why I had to have so much like strap in and all that. And the hernia was on the foot that I had the injury that I have no range on as well. So I kind of then said to the physios, like, do you think this has happened because I'm struggling to get that range? Do you think where my foot's clearly compensating in other ways, it's then putting kind of pressure and stress in different areas that's now causing other problems? And they said, yeah, you're probably right. So all from this one injury in my foot, it just gives me problems all over the place.
And would you say, like, the way you've spoke about it, like those two serious injuries, would you say the one that's caused you the most issues is actually the ankle rather than the knee? Or
oh yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. The knee seems to be, flying. I keep on top of my leg strength as I should. Yeah.
Did you, just to go back like really far, Giarnni, one thing I always remember, I'll never forget it, start of 2016, we had profiling, we were doing leg press, and you did like, how many did you do?
Back then I couldn't do any.
It was like you did 3, and I think maxing out was like 40.
Yeah.
And you did 3, and I can remember the S&C guys being like, it's not good enough, you've got to get it up to where everybody else is sitting at. The majority of people, I think, sat at over 30. And this is where you're on a leg press machine, and you're doing single leg press at 3/4 body weight. Yeah. You've got a metronome, and you're going to the beat, and you're maxing out is 40, and that means you're at a good level, you've got good quad hamstring strength. I can remember you being able to do about 3 or 4. Yeah. And then I can remember the conversation being, but he doesn't need to do it because he's better than everybody at floor and vault. Yeah. And it was really interesting, obviously, that then 6 months later, the injury that you had was your knee. And I remember having a conversation with this S&C coach and saying, why is it important that we're doing this S&C work? And he said, well, Sam, like, a lot of people don't know this, but your hamstrings should be equally as strong as your quad. And if they're not, that's one of the big factors that lead to people snapping their knee. And this all happened around that time. Yeah. From that period, I took S&C like really seriously. And it sounds from your story that after you did have the injuries, it changed almost the way in which you thought about your own body and your own legs, and you started to be a bit more professional and look after them more. Yeah. Would you say that?
I think, yeah, definitely. I think at that time, I was never introduced to S&C. I think as juniors, it wasn't part of our program yet. Like, it wasn't a thing. So for me, then doing profiling and having to do these tests, I've never done it. I've never done S&C. Yeah. I've never been kind of... Obviously, you do your odd, Fairman stuff like that, but I'd never been introduced to actual, S&C.
And it was all still pretty new at this time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't like the seniors had been doing it for very long either.
Yeah. So I think it was only at that point, really, where it was starting to be introduced to the team, really. And then obviously I have that accident. And again, it was hard because it was, you know, I felt like I had blocks. I'd have a period of time where I felt really motivated, and I was like, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get strong. And then because you don't see the results quickly, it's not a quick success, the rehab journey. You're then like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't want to do it. I'm not motivated today. So there was so many times where it was very up and down. And I think throughout my whole career, my whole journey of being injured, it has helped me massively because I've learned a lot about my body and the way my body works and why it's important to do these sort of things. And through every injury, obviously I worked really closely with like Giarnni and Rudy, and every injury that I had, they'd always make me go like, they'd give me kind of like homework. Giarnni would say like, G, I want you to learn about the shoulder after my shoulder. Learn about the shoulder, how it works, like the dynamics of the shoulder. And then I'd come back the next rehab and I was like, right, he tested me. He's like, what's this? What does this do? So like,
that's brilliant.
And then from that point on, it become a thing. So it's like learn about the knee. Yeah. Like I now know obviously like ligaments, all the way things work, tendons. Like they took hamstring, quads tendons and turned them into ligaments, used them for ligaments in my knee, things like that. Then like when I had my shoulder recently, it was like, I want you to learn about the nerves in the shoulder and things like that. So for me, it's been an incredible journey because I've learned a lot about myself, but I've also learned a lot about my body and like the anatomy of my body and the reason why we rehab in certain ways, you know, and that was important because it was now like, it wasn't just do these exercises. It was now I know why I'm doing these exercises because of what they're doing and how they're going to help and benefit me. So I think that was really good, and that's why I say I wouldn't change what's happened because I think it's taught me a lot about my body.
There's no way you would have been able to achieve what you did last year unless you'd have been through
the
challenges that you faced in 2016, right? And
100%.
You know, we talked a little bit before we got here. We can't not talk about the World Championships last year. Just tell me what that was like. I can't even imagine. You know, I imagine you had that injury with your knee and you're sat back and you're thinking, am I ever going to be able to achieve my dream or have the opportunity to try and go and achieve my dream? Then 12 months later, you do your ankle injury. And to become a world champion on floor, which, you know, is pretty unbelievable, mate. How was that experience? Tell me about the routine, and then just tell me a little bit about the feelings afterwards as well.
Yeah, so if I'm honest, the build up to that World Championships was a bit chaotic. I was deciding what sort of routine I wanted to do. Now, myself, I wanted to go for my own skill in the code. I was going to do double pipe full. I've been doing it like secretly in the background for a while, and I've seen that Sabhat had been trying it recently, and I was like, oh, someone else is trying it now. So I was doing it in a routine. I was then trying to push myself because I was like, if I want to make that floor final, what start value do I need? What level routine do I need to be doing? So I sat down. You know, I think we all work closely. Baz, he always comes up with these wonderful routines, and I then was doing double pipe full. Second tumble was triple double, but it got to a point where I just then wasn't landing a triple double at all. I wasn't landing a double pipe full. And I remember they sat me down literally the week we was travelling, and they said, gee, you need to decide what you're doing. You either got to go for the skill or you're going to go for a final, because I feel as if you go for the skill, it's going to put the final at risk because of, you know, that's your focus really. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I had a conversation with Baz, and we just said we'll go for the final. You know, we'll go for a routine that I can do. And if no one does that skill, then maybe we'll try next year or the year after or whatever. But it was the home World Championships. And they also, at this time, I wasn't landing triple-double. I just added it into my routine. So Europeans, I was only doing double-double. And I decided that if I want to take that next step and give me a better chance of making a final or getting a medal, I need to add the triple-double in. I need to upgrade my routine. I was landing on my face. And this is what's crazy, because normally you'd think, right, you'd have a solid build up to the World Championships. You'd go there and you'd know you've had a really good preparation. It was the complete opposite for me. I didn't land one triple double, and I had the conversation with the team, and they were like, "Gee, if you don't land it in podium, we're gonna have to pull it out, because, you know, obviously we need a score, you know, for the team's sake as well." And I remember it coming around. I was like, I need to land this. Come on, like in my hotel room, I was like, I'm gonna do it. I've got to do it. Today's the day. We get out to podium, and it was that time, warmed up my double, and it was the make or break, really. Am I going to compete at triple double or not? And naturally, I think when you're in that environment, you get out there, you got a bit of adrenaline, you're in the arena, and you're like, yeah, I'm here. I went triple double, like little jump back or step back, and I was like, yeah, that's it. But every time I was still scared, because I was thinking, that's like probably the second one I've landed in training. So come qualification day, I was just fueled with adrenaline. Landed it. Team final, landed it. And then obviously floor final. Those were the only 3 floor routines I made.
In the whole build-up to the World Championships, wow.
So I think going out into that floor final, I was like, I've done it. Like, for me, I really wanted to make a floor final. I felt like after all my injuries, I just struggled to make floor and vault finals. I felt as if, as a junior, I was winning floor and vault all the time, and all of a sudden now as a senior, I'm not even making finals. It felt so difficult, and I felt like I was always chasing, and every time I felt like I got there, the level had already increased, and I was always playing catch up. And I remember going out, and I was like, I'm giving it my all today. And Baz texted me the day before saying, how was your session, G? I was like, yeah, not too bad. My ankle was a little sore. Again, dealing with this ankle. But I'm ready for tomorrow. I've had a bit of treatment. And then he texted me after saying, you're going to be a world champion. And I've still got it. I've screenshotted it. And he then put in separate paragraphs, you are going to be world champion. Like that. And I just put, thanks, Baz. But it was that belief, I think, as well. Just like putting that belief in me. And I remember going out there and I was thinking, do you know what? I'm going to give it my all. I've got nothing to lose. We're all here. Everyone's got 2 arms, 2 legs. You know, we're in this final. If anything happens in the final, then the Philippine gymnast, Carlos Yulo, goes up. And I was thinking, if anyone's going to, you know, win this, it will be him. Because his routine's incredible. He was scoring like 15 something consistently, qualifications, all round, things like that. And I was like, you know, he's the top dog. He then made a mistake. Now I was sat there and I'm kind of like head down, kind of looking up now and then, and you can kind of hear by the crowd, and you hear when someone falls, they go like, oh, like that. And in my head I'm thinking, he just fell. Okay. Next floor worker goes up. And there was a lot of mistakes. The highest score at this point was 14.2. And I was thinking, all I need to do is do the routine, land on my feet, and I can get a medal. At this point, I think gold wasn't really. I wasn't like thinking like I can get a gold. I was thinking I just need to land on my feet. And I think that was what was probably one of the most nerve-wracking moments, because I had been given an opportunity.
Yeah.
But I still had to deliver. So that was that was so scary, because although some of these big floor workers had made mistakes, I was walking up to that podium thinking, I've still got to deliver my routine.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
This isn't a handout.
Put your hand up.
Yeah. And I was walking around to the corner thinking, you're here. Any minute now, that green light's going to go on. And that, for me, that's when, like, you just start, you're like, come on. You start going through it, you try and stay calm. And I always get in my head, because I'm like, I get to the corner, I'm like, I can't remember. Because I do triple double, then double double. I'm thinking, can I remember what to do in a triple double? And I start overthinking things, and I'm in the corner thinking, right, it's a triple double, you just got to hold in a bit longer. And I'm like, playing it in my head. It's like your mind just goes a bit blank, but you know you can do it. Yeah. I think just in that moment, you're just like,
It's almost that fight or flight thing in that pressured situation.
And then, green light goes on, and I'm thinking, holy cow, any minute now, I've got to take my first step. And then, all I was saying to myself was just fight for the landing, land on my feet. I don't care if I have to take a step, land on my feet. Don't fall over, don't jump out, land on my feet. And it was the third tumble, so I went triple, double, double, double. And I did the third tumble was 2.5, straight front, 1.5. Now that combination tumble for me is so like technical, because sometimes I do the 2.5 and then the straight front would be too like low, so then my legs would buckle and I'd not make the 1.5. The amount of times like I failed that tumble, I failed at Commonwealth Games in the final. I made a mistake at the Europeans on that tumble, almost to the point where I was like, I don't know if I should do this tumble anymore. And I remember just saying like, calm, and like just be patient. Because when you have adrenaline, you're pumped up, you tend to like want to react really quickly and, you know, just bounce and overpower things. And then I remember getting to this is the funny, because I remember getting to I had splits wide arm. And sometimes in training, I'd never hold the wide arm. And I was thinking, please don't fail the handstand. You've done the hard part. Just hold the handstand, for crying out loud. But yeah, I'd done that routine. Score come up as 14.5 something. And I think in the moment, it's really hard because you're not like, you're really happy. You're like, oh my, like, that's fantastic. I've gone into first place. And you're like, right, there's still a couple of gymnasts to go. And you're thinking, really, there's only one that could probably knock me off. And it came down to, Japan. And to be fair, you know, he did a fantastic routine. I didn't think I had it, if I'm honest. His routine was fantastic. Yeah, he did a couple of low landings and stuff, but I think his routine was really clean. So I was like, I don't know. I remember saying to Giarnni, this sounds really like horrible, but I'll be upset if I get a silver medal now. Because it was one gymnast that could take the gold medal away from me. Yeah. So knowing that you've got a gold currently, and there was one person that could then take it away, like, obviously I'd be happy, but I think I'd be gutted at the same time, because of course you want to be a world champion, right? Yeah. And his score come up, and I think I was like 14.533, and he was like 14.5 something, and it was like 0.03 difference, and I was like, and it took me a second to realise,
because in that your brain and your eyes are trying to look at the scores, and
and I'm like,
is it a 1 or am I 2? 1 or 2?
I just looked to my next to his name, and it said 2, rank 2, and I was just like, yes. And it's just, in that moment for me, it's everything that I've been through, the setbacks, the injuries, the surgeries, you know, the times where I thought I was going to go, and there was many times I was going to quit. Right before Olympics, I said, I don't want to do this anymore. Then after the Olympics, I was like, I'm not coming back. I don't want to do it. So many times I wanted to throw in the towel, give up. Yeah, there I was. I didn't. I stuck with it. And I ended up as a world champion. And that for me is like, I don't need any more than that.
Yeah.
Some people want to chase 2-time, 3-time, 4-time world champion. For me, it's enough knowing that I made it once. And knowing that after everything I've been through with my legs and the struggles that I've gone through and the journey that everyone's been on, the people around me as well, that's enough for me. So
yeah, it's an amazing story, mate. It's unbelievable. And I think I was in South America somewhere in a dodgy hotel in like Ecuador, and I watched it. And it's a really cool moment to have known your story. I didn't know it as well as I probably should have, but amazing to hear it. So 2022, you're world champion. Just tell us a little bit about now. You've just found out that you're going to be a dad, which is probably an amazing feeling. Congratulations to you and your fiance. How many weeks pregnant are you?
20, so she's like 21.
So what's the due date?
February.
You got a February due date?
Yeah, okay. Beginning of February, around the 5th, I believe. So
5th of Feb.
Yeah.
How do you feel about being a dad? Has it sunk in yet? Do you have to keep reminding yourself?
Yeah, I think it's starting to get more real now, as it's, you know, the pregnancy's progressing. For me, it's really exciting. I come from a big family, and I love that. I'm really close. We have a really close family. She comes from a big family as well, and I think that's exactly what I want. You know, I wanna have my own family, And I'm really excited to start that and that journey, and then hopefully have a future athlete, superstar in the making as well. You know, all those things excite me. And I think it's nice. It's different. It gives me something else to look forward to. Like my whole life, I've dedicated my whole life to gymnastics. Really, been selfish, single-minded, everything for gymnastics and what's best. And now actually, I'm trying to just kind of there's more to life as well than sport, and knowing that inevitably one day it's going to come to an end.
Yeah.
It's here today, gone tomorrow, and I think that excites me, knowing that I'm going to have a family to kind of, you know, come home to and be around, which is really cool. So
yeah, that's amazing, mate. Just to finish then, next year, Paris Olympic Games. You know, I know we've not spoken about it today, but in 2021 you became an Olympian. Amazing experience, came fifth as a team. So you've got that experience in your locker. You've got the Youth Olympic Games. You're not on the team right now. You've had a surgery at the beginning of this year. Just tell us a little bit about what is in between now and you being on that plane to Paris. I'm guessing that is your goal, to be there next year.
Yeah.
And just talk to me a little bit about the Olympic Games next year, what your hopes are, and some of the challenges you think you're going to face.
Yeah, so obviously, you know, the goal is Paris. I feel as if Tokyo was a great experience, but again, it was an experience during COVID, which for me, you want the full Olympic experience. I got sent home 2 days after I'd finished competing in Tokyo. And I'm still chasing. I still believe we as a team can get a medal. I still believe individually we can have success as well. And yeah, for me now, I've had a year out. I've been injured, so I've got to earn my place. I'll have to do trials. I can't just walk into the team, regardless of my results, regardless of what I've achieved last year. That's all irrelevant. It's kind of like, you know, clean slate. Let's get the scores. And yeah, that's going to come with challenges. I'm actually facing a challenge right now, which I've got a slight back injury, which really doesn't help. But again, I think having gone through what I've gone through, the injuries, you know, my physios are just like, look, if anyone can do it, G, it's you. You know, if it was someone else, we'd probably question it. But with you, I have no, you know, we don't doubt what you can do, which is really, really good to hear. Because sometimes you just need that little, you know, for them to believe in you as well. But yeah, it will mean competing at the English Championships, trying to get scores there, the British Championships, and I'd like to say the Europeans, but again, that European team will more than likely be the Olympic team. So they'll probably try and give me one. I think they're going to try and give me one World Cup as well that I can aim towards. That gives me 3 opportunities to get some scores out there, and hopefully they're enough. So.
Amazing, mate. Well, look, whether you go to the games or you don't next year, I think it sounds like this year you've been able to reflect on your career already, and you've had an incredible career for someone that's still only 25. It's amazing to hear about the stuff outside of the gym, that you're going to be starting a family. I'm just found out I'm going to be a dad.
Yeah,
so,
congratulations.
Thank you very much, mate. It really does give you like a new lease of life, like a different type of motivation, you know, and it's an amazing thing, an amazing feeling. I'm really happy that you're doing well. Just the last thing from you, anybody out there that's had a big injury or might have a big injury again in the future, I don't think there's anybody else better to ask than someone that's come back and then become a world champion. What would be your biggest piece of advice for someone that is going through a big injury or might face one in the future?
I think my biggest piece of advice for anyone facing an injury is take it one day at a time. One step. One day becomes 1 week, becomes 1 month, becomes a year, which then becomes... And for me, I always say, just never give up. That's the easy thing to do. The thing that's helped me massively is I always say, there's someone out there that's got it worse than me. There's someone out there that's going through hell right now that's actually worse than what I'm going through. And that fills me with motivation to know, actually, you know, for example, you know, I used to look at my nan, and she had cancer, and I'd always see her. She'd always have a smile on her face, and for me, that was a bigger challenge than what I was going through. You know, so knowing that there's someone out there that's probably going through more, that should give you hope that you can do something, you can get through it. And like I say, keep going. One more day becomes one more week, becomes one more month, becomes a year, and then that's it.
Amazing, mate. Giarnni, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it. Thank you.